Most people take care of their bodies. They shower, brush their teeth, eat food, drink water. But when it comes to the mind, they leave it crowded, restless, and overwhelmed. They keep carrying around stress, fear, doubt, and old frustrations without realizing how heavy it all becomes. If your mind is always busy, tired, or negative, it's not because something's wrong with you. It's because it's full, and it needs a reset. This video is about exactly that, how to detox your mind. Not in a vague or fluffy way, but in a clear, practical, and honest way. You're going to learn what it really takes to clear out the noise, break old patterns, and create space for calm thinking, better decisions, and a stronger focus. Each chapter in this series gives you something you can apply. Not someday, today. Small actions that build clarity, direction, and real peace of mind. We're going to talk about how to let go of thoughts that hold you back, how to be more present in your day, how to stop feeding distractions and finally focus on what matters, how to protect your energy from people or habits that drain you, and how to slowly build a life that feels steady, sharp, and in your control again. This isn't about perfection. It's not about pretending everything is fine or forcing yourself to stay positive. It's about building daily strength through small choices. You'll walk away from this video with tools you can actually use and motivation that feels real, not just hyped up words that fade by tomorrow. If you've been feeling mentally tired, stuck in the same old loop, or unsure how to move forward, this is for you. Stick around until the end, because this might be the shift your mind has been needing for a long time. Chapter 1. Challenge your limiting beliefs by replacing them with truth. Most people live their lives inside a box they didn't build, a box made of ideas they never questioned, beliefs they never chose, and fears they never confronted. From the earliest days, they were told what they could or couldn't do, who they were, and what kind of life they were meant to live. Over time, these messages become truths, not because they are accurate, but because they're familiar. The mind doesn't seek truth. It seeks what feels safe, and what feels safe is what's been repeated the most, even if it's wrong. That is where the danger lies. A limiting belief, if left unchallenged, becomes a personal prison. The most powerful step you can take toward mental freedom is to confront these beliefs head-on. Not just question them, but replace them with something better, something grounded in reality, in growth, and in truth. This isn't just about thinking more positively. It's about reclaiming authority over your own mind. It's about waking up and realizing that many of the limits you think are holding you back exist only because you believe they do. Limiting beliefs show up in quiet ways. I'm not smart enough. I'm too old to start over. I've always been like this. Success is for other people, not me. These thoughts don't shout. They whisper. They sit just beneath the surface, shaping every choice you make. And because they feel like facts, you rarely stop to question them. But you must, because every belief you hold either pushes you forward or holds you back. And if you don't inspect them carefully, they'll run your life without your permission. The truth is, you weren't born with any of these beliefs. You absorbed them. From parents, teachers, experiences, pain, rejection, failure. But just because something was true once, or seemed true, doesn't mean it has to define your life. A belief is not a fixed object. It's a thought you've accepted as final. And what has been accepted can also be rejected. You can choose again. You can update the story. But to do that, you must stop protecting your old patterns with new excuses. You are not your past. You are not your environment. You are not the voice in your head telling you to play small. You are something far greater. But you will only live from that greater place if you're willing to challenge what you've always believed about yourself. The human mind is not a container, it's a creator. And your thoughts are not merely reflections of who you are. They are instructions to your brain, signals that shape how you feel, how you act, and ultimately what you become. Sometimes the greatest strength lies in walking away. Peace doesn't always need defending, and wisdom doesn't always need explaining. The most powerful moments are often found in the spaces between words, where understanding speaks louder than speech. To change your life, you have to start with your beliefs. Not the beliefs you say you have, but the ones you live by. Your true beliefs are revealed in how you handle adversity, how you treat yourself, how you respond when things don't go your way. If you say you believe in growth, but you give up after the first setback, then what you really believe in is comfort. If you say you value your potential, but you spend your days distracted and disconnected, then what you really believe is that your potential isn't worth the work. This is not about shame. This is about awareness, because without awareness, there can be no change. You must become the observer of your own mind. Notice the patterns. Catch the voice that says, "I can't." Listen for the phrases that start with "I always" or "I never." These are clues. They point to the beliefs that are quietly guiding your choices. And once you see them clearly, you have a responsibility to do something about them. Replacing a limiting belief starts with identifying it. Write it down. Look at it on paper. Don't dress it up. Be honest. If you believe you're not good enough, don't soften it. Write it plainly. And then ask yourself, where did this come from? Whose voice is this really? A parent? A teacher? A moment of failure? Whose expectations did you internalize and mistake for truth? Then challenge it. Is this belief always true? Can you find a time when it wasn't? Even once? Can you find someone who proves this belief wrong? Often the beliefs we cling to the most tightly are the ones we've never tested. We've just accepted them as reality. But reality isn't fixed. It's filtered. And your filter is made up of the thoughts you've rehearsed the most. Now replace it. Not with a fantasy, not with a lie, but with a more empowering truth. If you believed, "I'm not disciplined," try this. "I'm learning to be disciplined through small daily actions." That's not a dream. It's a direction. It's grounded. It's forward-focused. Or if you've believed, "I'm not worthy of love," replace it with "I am worthy of love and respect, and I will start by treating myself that way." Speak that truth daily. Write it down. Repeat it when the old belief creeps in, because it will. And every time it does, you have a choice. Feed the lie or stand in the truth. This isn't a one-time exercise. It's a lifelong process. Your mind is always absorbing, always listening. If you don't take control of the narrative, someone else will write it for you. That's why daily practice matters. Your mind is a garden. What you plant, you grow. And what you neglect dies. You can't plant weeds of doubt and expect a harvest of confidence. You must choose your seeds wisely. Every morning, remind yourself of the truths you want to live by. Write them down. Speak them out loud. Align your actions with them. This is how belief becomes identity. And identity becomes behavior. It's not enough to say, "I believe in myself." You must show it. In how you speak. In how you walk. In what you say yes to, and what you say no to. Confidence is not built by words. It's built by alignment. When your actions match your truth, you become powerful, and don't wait for the belief to feel fully real before you act. That's backward. Belief grows through evidence, and evidence comes from action. You don't become confident by waiting to feel ready. You become confident by acting before you feel ready, and proving to yourself that you can. That's how you break the cycle. That's how you write a new script. You will have days when the old beliefs return. That's normal. You're not failing. You're rewiring. The brain doesn't change overnight, but it does change with repetition. Every time you challenge a lie, you weaken it. Every time you speak a better truth, you strengthen it. And over time, the new belief becomes the default. Not because it's louder, but because you fed it more. This is inner work, quiet work, the kind no one claps for. But it's the most important work you'll ever do, because it determines how you show up in every area of your life. Relationships, career, health, purpose, they all flow from what you believe about yourself. You can chase results, or you can become the kind of person who naturally creates those results. That's the difference between surface-level change and deep transformation. There is nothing more powerful than a person who knows they are no longer controlled by their past. A person who has faced the lies they once believed and replaced them with clarity. That kind of person walks differently. They move with intention. They're not looking for approval because they already approve of themselves. They're not waiting for the world to change because they've already changed the one thing they can control: their mind. You don't have to become someone else. You just have to become more of who you truly are, beneath the fear, beneath the doubt, beneath the stories you inherited but never chose. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are becoming. And every day is another step in that becoming. If you choose to walk it, you're allowed to outgrow old versions of yourself. You're allowed to question everything you were taught. You're allowed to believe in something greater. Not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Because your future depends on it. Because the life you want can't be built on the beliefs that are holding you back. It must be built on truth. Your truth. And that truth begins the moment you stop running and start rewriting. You are not what you've been told. You are not your worst day. You are not the opinion of someone who couldn't see your value. You are the result of what you choose to believe today. Choose well and keep choosing every single day. Because what you believe shapes how you live, and how you live shapes who you become. Make it count. Chi. Chapter 2. Eliminate mental clutter by organizing your thoughts daily. Every day your mind collects information, conversations, worries, goals, distractions, and unfinished thoughts. It all piles up, quietly and invisibly, until you find yourself overwhelmed, agitated, or emotionally exhausted, without really knowing why. Mental clutter is not something you can see, but you feel its weight. It clouds your focus, distorts your decisions, and builds tension in your body. You forget what's important. You lose track of what needs to be done. You can't hear your own voice clearly because it's buried under noise you've never taken the time to clear. Mental clutter isn't caused by life being too busy. It's caused by a lack of inner structure. Without structure, your thoughts spill over. Without reflection, they repeat themselves unnecessarily. Most people carry around yesterday's problems, last week's worries, and unresolved questions from years ago, all competing for attention. The mind becomes a room filled with unfinished business. The longer you ignore it, the harder it becomes to think clearly. And without clarity, everything suffers: your peace, your choices, your progress. This is why organizing your thoughts isn't optional. It's essential. You would never leave your physical home in a constant state of chaos. You clean it, arrange it, throw things out that don't serve you. The mind demands the same care. A cluttered mind will always feel stressed, even when nothing is wrong. That tension you carry when you wake up, that restlessness before bed, it's the weight of thoughts that were never processed, decisions that were never made, and emotions that were never addressed. Organizing your mind is not about control, it's about clarity. You don't need to manage every thought. You just need to give them a place. You need to know which thoughts require action, which ones need release, and which ones are simply noise. Most of what occupies your mental space isn't urgent, it's just unprocessed. The brain tries to hold on to it all because you haven't taken time to let it go. The process begins with a habit, setting aside time every day to clean up your thinking. Not once a week. Not when you feel overwhelmed. Daily. This is a discipline that keeps you light, focused, and emotionally grounded. You can do it in the morning to set your direction, or in the evening to clear your head before sleep. What matters is consistency. Because mental clarity isn't something you find, it's something you create. Sit down with a piece of paper and write down everything that's circling in your head. Don't try to organize it right away. Just empty your mind. Let your thoughts pour out without judgment. Worries, tasks, decisions, frustrations, ideas, reminders, get it all out. Most of what causes anxiety is not the problem itself, it's the mind trying to hold everything at once. Once thoughts are outside of you, they lose their grip. They become manageable. You gain space between you and the thought, and in that space you find control. Next, review what you wrote and sort it. Ask yourself, what requires action? What's just emotion? What can I let go of? This small act of categorizing changes everything. It brings order to chaos. You stop treating every thought like it's urgent. You stop reacting to emotion as if it's fact. You begin to see what's really important. And that clarity leads to better choices, calmer responses, and a quieter inner world. It's important to recognize that your thoughts are not always trustworthy. Not every thought you have deserves your attention. The mind produces noise, just like the body produces energy. If you don't direct it, it scatters. If you don't guide it, it leads you in circles. You must train yourself to observe your thoughts without blindly accepting them. If you think, "I'm falling behind," ask yourself if that's true or just pressure you've absorbed from comparison. If you think, "I'll never figure this out," question it. Is that a fact or just fatigue talking? Organizing your thoughts is not just about writing, it's about awareness. Start catching yourself in the moment when your mind jumps from one worry to another. Pause and ask, what is the one thing I need to focus on right now? That single question brings you back to the present, and the present is where clarity lives. Most mental clutter lives in the past or the future, in regrets, what-ifs, or imagined scenarios. But you don't live there. You live here. And here is where change happens. One of the most effective tools for clearing mental clutter is to create a simple thought routine each day. Start by identifying your top 3 priorities for the day, not 10. 3. This forces your mind to choose what really matters. Then ask yourself, what thoughts are taking up space but not helping me move forward? Write them down and consciously decide whether to act on them, let them go, or revisit them later. This keeps your mind clean and directed. Another method is to set boundaries with your thinking. Just like you don't let everyone into your home, you shouldn't let every thought dominate your attention. When a thought enters your mind, evaluate it. Is this useful? Is this necessary right now? If the answer is no, Set it aside. Imagine placing it on a shelf or putting it in a mental box to revisit later. You are not the servant of your thoughts. You are their master. They are tools, not rulers. Clearing mental clutter also means closing loops. Unfinished tasks and unresolved decisions drain mental energy. If there's something you've been putting off, ask yourself why. Is it really that difficult, or is it just uncomfortable? The more unfinished things you carry, the heavier your mental load becomes. Start closing loops daily. Make the call, send the message. Make the decision. Progress is built on completion, not perfection. Mental organization is also emotional. If you're carrying resentment, regret, or unresolved tension, your mind will remain noisy. You can't organize thoughts without processing feelings. Give yourself time each day to feel what needs to be felt. Anger, sadness, frustration. These emotions carry information. Don't suppress them. Acknowledge them, understand them, and then decide what you want to do with them. That emotional clarity is part of your mental clarity. As you build this daily practice, you'll start to notice the difference in your life. You'll be more present in conversations. You'll stop forgetting things that matter. You'll react less impulsively and make decisions with more confidence. The small things won't get to you like they used to, because your mind will no longer be overstretched. You'll be able to think clearly, act decisively, and move forward with peace instead of pressure. Most importantly, you'll begin to trust yourself more. A disorganized mind is full of self-doubt. It questions everything because it doesn't know what matters most. But a clear mind is grounded. It can handle challenges without panic. It can step back and see the bigger picture. That's the kind of mind you need to build a strong, resilient life. One that isn't pulled in every direction, but rooted in discipline and clarity. You don't need more time. You need more space inside your mind. And that space is something you create, one day at a time, by making the decision to stop carrying what no longer serves you. The mind, when properly organized, becomes your ally. It becomes the source of your strength, your clarity, and your calm. And when that happens, you stop reacting to life. You start directing it. Chapter 3. Reprogram your mind by focusing on positive self-talk. Every word you speak to yourself shapes the way you see the world and the role you believe you play in it. The mind listens closely, even when you're not aware. It absorbs every silent judgment, every harsh comment, every doubtful whisper. If those messages are negative, the mind will start to reflect them back in how you think, how you behave, and how you carry yourself through life. And over time, this internal script becomes your reality, not because it's true, but because you've repeated it enough to believe it. You might not remember when it started, but if you've ever told yourself you weren't good enough, or smart enough, or strong enough, those words planted seeds that grew into quiet limitations. But the truth is, your mind can be reprogrammed. You are not stuck with the thoughts you've always had. You are not bound to the old narrative you've repeated to yourself for years. The brain is flexible. It rewires itself every day based on what you feed it. If you change the input, you change the output. This means you have far more power than you think. You can teach yourself to think differently, feel differently, and act differently by choosing the words you repeat. Positive self-talk isn't about pretending everything is perfect. It's about aligning your thoughts with the truth of your potential, even when things are hard. It's about speaking to yourself with the same clarity, respect, and belief you would offer someone you love. It's about choosing not to be your own enemy. Most people sabotage their confidence through their inner dialogue long before the world ever challenges it. They criticize themselves for not being further ahead. They replay every mistake. They assume they'll fail before they even try, and they wonder why they feel defeated. The damage isn't always done by others. It's done quietly, through thoughts that go unchallenged. The mind accepts repetition as truth. It doesn't care whether the message is helpful or destructive. It just listens. That's why you have to take control of what you allow to echo in your head. If you consistently say, "I can't," your brain will look for evidence to support it. If you constantly expect rejection, your body will start to tense in fear, even in safe situations. But if you speak words of encouragement, if you tell yourself, "I'm capable, I can figure this out," or "I've done hard things before," your brain will begin to adapt. It will start searching for proof of your strength instead of your shortcomings. And that subtle shift will change the way you show up in every part of life. This isn't about blind optimism, it's about mental discipline. The goal isn't to ignore reality, it's to interpret reality through a lens that empowers instead of weakens you. Life will always present challenges. You don't need to pretend it's easy, but you do need to remind yourself that you can handle it, that you've handled worse before, that you are capable of growing through difficulty, not just surviving it. Positive self-talk gives you that inner stability. It keeps your focus sharp when things are uncertain. It keeps your emotions balanced when the situation gets tough. To begin changing your self-talk, you first have to become aware of it. Notice how you speak to yourself in quiet moments, when you make a mistake, when you wake up, when you're facing something uncertain. Pay attention to the tone, not just the words. Is it patient or harsh? Encouraging or critical? Would you speak that way to someone you care about? If the answer is no, it's time to rewrite the script. Start by identifying the most common negative phrases you use. Maybe it's "I always mess things up," or "nothing ever works out for me." These statements are dangerous because they are absolute. They leave no room for growth. They box you into an identity that doesn't evolve. Once you spot them, replace them with something more grounded and empowering. Not unrealistic, just honest and forward-facing. Instead of "I always fail," say, "This didn't go as planned, but I can learn from it." Instead of "I'm not good at this," say, "I'm still learning, and that's okay." These adjustments may seem small, but over time they rebuild your inner foundation. The most important time to use positive self-talk is not when you feel confident, it's when you feel uncertain, discouraged, or afraid. That's when your mind is most vulnerable to slipping into old patterns, and that's when your words matter most. Instead of surrendering to doubt, speak stability into yourself. Say, "I can take one small step." Say, "I've faced pressure before, and I found a way through it." Say, "This moment does not define my future." These statements aren't about hype. They're about anchoring yourself in truth. Reprogramming your mind also means being intentional about what you expose yourself to. The words you speak come from the words you consume. If you constantly hear messages of failure, comparison, and hopelessness, they will shape your thoughts without you even noticing. But if you feed your mind with wisdom, encouragement, and clear thinking, your inner voice will start to echo that. Read things that uplift. Spend time around people who speak with intention. Create an environment that supports mental strength instead of tearing it down. Affirmations are a simple but powerful way to rewire your internal dialogue. Choose a few statements that reflect the version of yourself you're working to become. Not who you hope to be someday, but who you are actively becoming now. Say them out loud each morning. Write them down each night. Repetition is how belief is built. If you say, "I'm disciplined," I trust my judgment, or I'm worthy of respect every day. Your mind will start to accept those statements as fact. And once belief takes root, your behavior will follow. There will be days when positive self-talk feels forced. Days when doubt is louder than conviction. That's normal, but that's not the time to give up. It's the time to speak louder. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who chooses which thoughts to keep and which ones to let pass. The voice in your head doesn't have to be the one that held you back your whole life. You can build a new one, word by word, thought by thought, day by day. The goal is not perfection, it's progress. It's becoming a little more conscious of the way you speak to yourself each day. It's catching the negativity a little faster, replacing it with something stronger. It's recognizing that every great change begins with how you think, and how you think is shaped by what you say, especially when no one else is listening. This is how you rebuild self-belief. Not by waiting for the world to confirm your worth, but by affirming it to yourself. You train your mind to lift you instead of limit you. You become your own source of strength. And when you do that, the world outside starts to reflect the strength you've built inside. Chapter 4. Overcome fear by taking small, consistent actions each day. Fear grows in silence. It expands when left unchallenged. It convinces you to wait for the right moment, the perfect plan, or a sign that guarantees success. But those moments rarely come. Waiting gives fear time to build walls in your mind, making the path forward look harder than it really is. What shrinks fear is action, not giant leaps, not dramatic breakthroughs, just steady, simple steps taken every day, even when you're uncertain. Especially when you're uncertain. Because fear doesn't disappear before you move. It weakens as you move. One small act of courage, repeated over time, rewires how you relate to fear itself. Most people misunderstand fear. They see it as a warning to stop, but in truth fear often points to the very place where growth begins. When something matters deeply, it's natural to feel nervous. When the outcome is unknown, it's normal to hesitate. But being afraid doesn't mean you're unready. It just means you're alive, facing something real. The key is not to wait for the fear to vanish. The key is to move with it. Let it come along, but don't let it decide the direction. That's how strength is built, not by avoiding fear, but by walking through it with steady feet. You don't have to be bold every minute of the day. You just have to be slightly braver than your fear for one moment at a time. That's it. One decision, one action, one honest step forward, then another tomorrow. It adds up. You don't climb a mountain by jumping to the top. You do it by placing one foot in front of the other, even when the peak is hidden by clouds. Fear loses its grip when your focus shifts from the full journey to just the next step. Avoiding fear makes it louder. It becomes a shadow that follows you into every room. But when you start doing the very things you once avoided, the fear weakens, not because it vanishes, but because you stop feeding it. Action is proof that fear isn't in control. Even if your voice shakes, even if your hands are unsteady, taking action sends a signal to your mind. I can do hard things. That belief is what begins to change your reality. Start with what feels manageable. If you're afraid to speak up, try saying one sentence instead of remaining silent. If you're afraid of rejection, introduce yourself to someone new, even if it's just a quick hello. If you're afraid of failure, work on the task for 5 minutes. Just 5. You don't need to finish everything at once. You just need to show your mind that you're not backing down. With each small act of courage, your confidence grows, and the more you act, the less permission fear needs to have. Consistency is what transforms action into identity. Anyone can take a bold step once, but if you want to truly overcome fear, you must show up repeatedly, even when it's uncomfortable, even when the results aren't immediate. Every day you take action is a vote for the person you are becoming. Over time, those small votes become a powerful identity. Someone who acts in the face of fear, someone who doesn't wait for perfect conditions, someone who moves forward because they've made it a habit to trust their own ability. Fear often hides behind excuses that sound reasonable. I need more time. It's not the right season. I'll start after I'm more prepared. These are just polished versions of hesitation. The truth is, clarity comes through doing, not thinking. Action reveals what planning never will. You learn by engaging, not by analyzing from a distance. The longer you delay, the more intimidating it becomes. The sooner you begin, the sooner your mind realizes it's capable. When you take action, keep your expectations rooted in progress, not perfection. You're not trying to eliminate all fear in a day. You're learning to coexist with it and still move forward. Some days will feel easier than others. Some steps will feel heavier. That's part of it. The goal is not to avoid discomfort, but to build tolerance for it. As you do, what once felt impossible becomes part of your rhythm. You adapt, grow, and adjust. And in that process, fear becomes less of a threat and more of a teacher. Courage is not loud. It's not about shouting down fear. Real courage is quiet and steady. It looks like persistence. It looks like trying again. It looks like facing the same challenge for the 10th time with a stronger mindset than the first. You build that courage by showing up for yourself, even when no one sees it. Even when no one claps. The reward is internal. You begin to trust yourself more. And self-trust is what carries you through the next storm. Your mind remembers what you repeatedly do. So if you act in fear every time, your brain creates a link. Fear means stop. But if you act in fear and still move, your brain rewires that connection. Fear means keep going. This isn't motivational talk, it's biology. Your habits shape your nervous system. Your nervous system influences your emotional state, and your emotional state affects how you interpret your circumstances. All of this changes when you start taking small regular steps despite being afraid. You don't need to be fearless. You need to be willing to try, willing to stumble, willing to feel the discomfort without turning away, willing to keep showing up until fear stops controlling the story. And with enough repetition, it will. Fear becomes background noise when the rhythm of your progress becomes louder. You stop checking how scared you feel and start checking how much further you've come. And that shift is everything. Look back at the times you were most afraid. You're still here. You survived them. You may even realize that the fear was worse than the outcome. That's the pattern. Fear exaggerates, action reveals. And once you start acting consistently, you begin to see fear for what it really is, a reaction, not a rule, an impulse, not a prophecy. So if you're waiting for fear to go away before you act, you'll be waiting forever. If you want to overcome it, move through it. Quietly, steadily, honestly, one small action at a time. The size of the step doesn't matter. The decision to take it does. What matters is that you refuse to let fear be the loudest voice in the room. You choose effort over ease. You choose progress over paralysis. And in doing so, you remind yourself of the strength you've always had. Chapter 5. Transform stress into growth by embracing uncomfortable situations. Stress, when faced directly, can become a powerful force for inner transformation. The discomfort it brings is not a signal to retreat, but an invitation to grow. Most people try to avoid stressful moments. They look for shortcuts, distractions, and ways to keep life within a narrow zone of predictability. But real development doesn't happen where it's comfortable. It takes root in the places you'd rather avoid. Those tough conversations, long nights of effort, uncertain outcomes, and moments of pressure, those are where your strength is revealed and refined. The problem isn't stress itself. The problem is the way we respond to it. If you view stress as a threat, it will always feel like a weight pressing you down. But if you shift your perspective and see it as a challenge, something that asks you to rise instead of shrink, it changes what happens next. Every time you're under pressure, you're given a decision. Will you step up or will you step back? The direction you choose repeatedly becomes the path your life follows. The more you step into discomfort with awareness and effort, the more capable you become. You don't have to love stress to benefit from it. You just have to stop resisting it. Resistance magnifies suffering. Acceptance makes it manageable. Embracing uncomfortable situations doesn't mean you want to feel pain. It means you're willing to experience short-term difficulty in exchange for long-term strength. Growth costs something. It asks for patience, endurance, and the ability to stay present when your instincts scream to run. But the payoff is worth it. Increased resilience, sharper focus, deeper confidence, and the quiet satisfaction of knowing you didn't give up. The key is learning how to sit with discomfort without turning it into a crisis. You might feel overwhelmed at times, but that doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're stretching. It means your capacity is expanding. Think of a muscle. To grow stronger, it must be challenged. The moment it resists the weight is the moment it begins to build. The same is true for your character. You become wiser not by avoiding tension, but by moving through it with clarity and discipline. Stress is a signal that something matters. It appears when you're doing something meaningful, uncertain, or challenging. It shows up when your values are tested or your limits are pushed. If you avoid it altogether, you never reach the outer edges of your potential. You stay in the same emotional and mental patterns, never developing the depth that comes from adversity. But when you willingly enter situations that are outside your usual comfort zone, you discover parts of yourself that were hidden by ease. The people who grow the most are not the ones with perfect circumstances. They are the ones who consistently lean into challenges. They don't see hard moments as signs of failure. They see them as teachers. Every uncomfortable experience brings a lesson. Sometimes it reveals a weakness. Other times it uncovers a strength. But either way, it gives you information. It shows you where to focus your energy. It makes you more self-aware, and from that awareness comes the power to improve. Instead of asking why something is difficult, ask what it's teaching you. If you're under pressure at work, maybe it's showing you where your boundaries need reinforcing. If you're in a strained relationship, maybe it's revealing where you're not speaking honestly. If you're dealing with uncertainty, maybe it's guiding you to build patience and trust in your ability to adapt. There's insight hidden inside discomfort, but you can only find it if you stop running and start listening. Embracing stress doesn't mean taking on everything or pushing yourself to the point of collapse. It means choosing challenge over comfort when you know the challenge will make you better. It means recognizing when something is hard but necessary. And it means allowing yourself to feel the weight of effort without labeling it as something negative. Discomfort is not your enemy. It's the friction that creates growth. One of the most effective ways to grow from stress is to become intentional with how you face difficult moments. When something feels overwhelming, Pause and break it into smaller pieces. Focus on what's within your control. You can't always change the situation, but you can always change your response. You can slow your breathing, clarify your thoughts, and take a steady action forward. That's how you stay grounded when everything feels chaotic. You'll also grow faster when you stop trying to appear strong and start being honest. Admitting that something is hard doesn't make you weak. It makes you real. Pretending you're unaffected builds pressure, but naming your feelings creates space for them to move. When you acknowledge your stress without judgment, you take away its power to control you. Then you can work through it, not around it. There will be moments when you feel tired, when growth feels slow, when the discomfort seems to have no end. But that doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're in the process. The work of transformation doesn't happen all at once. It builds quietly. The strength you're creating today might not be visible tomorrow, but it's there, inside, forming, maturing, preparing you for what comes next. Uncomfortable situations are not punishment. They are preparation. They sharpen your ability to think clearly under pressure. They stretch your capacity to manage emotion. They deepen your understanding of yourself and others. Without them, you would stay the same. You would keep circling the same mental habits, never confronting the deeper parts of yourself. But with them, you evolve. Slowly, deliberately, powerfully. Stress shows you what you care about. It shows you where your limits are and invites you to expand them. It's not something to fear, it's something to work with. If you stop avoiding it and start meeting it with presence, it becomes less of a burden and more of a tool. You begin to navigate life with more calm, more clarity, and more courage. You stop being reactive and start being deliberate. You won't always feel in control, but you'll always have a choice. You can escape the discomfort or engage with it. You can shut down or lean in. The more you choose to face stress directly and with intention, the more prepared you become for life's inevitable tests. You grow into someone who can handle what others avoid. Someone who bends under pressure but never breaks. Someone who turns challenge into fuel. That kind of growth doesn't just change how you feel. It changes who you are. Not overnight, but day by day. Stress, when embraced, becomes the forge where a stronger mind is shaped. You come out of it more grounded, more focused, and more alive. And that's a transformation worth every ounce of effort. Chapter 6. Develop resilience by bouncing back from failure with purpose. Failure is not a sign that you're not good enough. It's not an ending, it's a turning point. What matters is what you do with it. When life doesn't go the way you planned, when your efforts don't give you the result you hoped for, and when the door you tried to open won't budge, you're left with a decision: sit in defeat or rise with purpose. Resilience isn't about avoiding failure, it's about refusing to be defined by it. It's the ability to take the hit, learn from it, and keep going with greater clarity. Everyone faces setbacks. It's a universal experience. No matter how careful, talented, or hard-working you are, failure will cross your path. But what separates those who rise from those who retreat is mindset. It's the way you talk to yourself in those quiet moments after the fall. If you treat failure like a personal verdict, you'll carry shame instead of growth. But if you treat it like feedback, you'll gain wisdom and direction. You'll realize that falling down doesn't remove your potential, it reveals it. It shows you where to build next. The most resilient people aren't fearless, they're deeply aware of how hard life can be. But they've trained themselves to see failure as part of the path, not a detour from it. When things fall apart, they ask different questions. not why me, but what now. Not what did I lose, but what can I build next. They don't see their story as over, they see it as evolving, and that shift changes everything. To bounce back with purpose, you have to be honest about the experience. Pretending it didn't hurt won't make you stronger. Strength begins when you face reality without flinching. You acknowledge the pain, the loss, the disappointment. You give it a name. You let it move through you, not stay stuck inside. Resilience isn't suppression, it's integration. It's the ability to feel deeply without losing your center. Once you face the fall, you can start the climb. That's where purpose comes in. Purpose gives failure direction. Without it, you're just reacting, bouncing from one moment to the next without focus. But with purpose, even your mistakes become part of a larger mission. You stop asking whether you'll win or lose, and start focusing on who you're becoming in the process. Every experience becomes fuel. Every setback becomes material for your growth. To build that kind of resilience, start by redefining what failure means to you. If you think of it as shameful or final, you'll hesitate to try again. But if you see it as a sign that you're pushing your limits, you'll keep reaching. You'll understand that failure is not the opposite of success, it's a crucial part of it. Nobody achieves anything meaningful without setbacks. Behind every strong person is a history of moments that didn't work out, but shaped them anyway. Next, take ownership. Blaming circumstances, other people, or bad luck won't help you move forward. What empowers you is asking, what part of this can I own? Even if it wasn't all your fault, there's always something to learn. Maybe you ignored a red flag. Maybe you rushed a decision. Maybe you didn't prepare as thoroughly as you could have. Whatever it is, own it. Not to punish yourself, but to grow. Ownership leads to growth. Growth leads to resilience. Once you've taken responsibility, reflect with purpose. Ask yourself what the experience is teaching you. Maybe it's pointing out a weakness you need to strengthen. Maybe it's revealing a value you've been neglecting. Maybe it's reminding you that your worth isn't tied to outcomes. Sit with those insights. Write them down. Let them shape how you approach your next steps. Resilience also depends on how you speak to yourself after failure. If your inner voice becomes harsh, you'll spiral into self-doubt. But if your self-talk is grounded in truth and compassion, you'll begin to rise. Remind yourself that setbacks don't erase your potential. Remind yourself of what you've already overcome. Treat yourself like someone worth fighting for, not someone to abandon. That shift in language creates a shift in energy. It rebuilds your inner foundation. After that, take action. Any action. It doesn't have to be dramatic. The goal isn't to undo the failure immediately. The goal is to prove to yourself that you're still moving. Progress creates momentum. Even a small step can break the spell of inertia. Send the email. Make the call. Start the draft. Show up for your next workout. Whatever the area of your life that took the hit, take a step toward rebuilding it. Not perfectly, purposefully. Remember, you're not starting from zero. You're starting from experience. The version of you that failed is not the same as the version of you that's rising. You carry the lesson now. You carry the insight. You carry the fire that only comes from being tested. That matters. It gives you an edge. It gives you depth. The next time you face a challenge, you'll approach it differently, not from fear, but from clarity. There will still be doubts. That's normal. Resilience doesn't remove uncertainty. It helps you act despite it. When your mind fills with fear, return to your reasons. Why does this matter to you? Who do you want to become through this? What will you regret if you stop now? Anchor yourself in those answers. They'll give you the fuel to keep going when motivation fades. You'll also find strength by surrounding yourself with people who remind you of who you are. Not just people who comfort you, but people who challenge you to rise. The right support doesn't coddle, it calls you back to your purpose. Let others walk with you through the rebuilding. Share your process. Speak your lessons out loud. Resilience grows stronger when it's witnessed and reinforced by connection. Failure is not the end. It's a mirror. It shows you who you are, what you value, and where you're still growing. It removes illusions and replaces them with truth. And in that truth is the seed of something powerful, the decision to rise again. When you rise, you're not just recovering, you're transforming. You're proving to yourself that no failure has the final word. Your resilience is built in the moments when you feel broken but choose to rebuild anyway. It grows in the silence after disappointment, when you gather your thoughts, collect your courage, and take one more step. That's how strength is forged, not in victory, but in the decision to stand back up with more wisdom than before. You may not control every fall, but you do control the way you respond. And that response, that steady return to purpose, is what defines your future. Chapter 7. Embody self-compassion by forgiving yourself every single day. Self-compassion is one of the most powerful gifts you can give yourself. It's the practice of treating yourself with kindness, understanding, and patience, especially in moments when you feel inadequate or have made mistakes. It's easy to forgive others, but when it comes to ourselves, we often hold ourselves to impossible standards and then berate ourselves when we fall short. This pattern, however, doesn't serve us. In fact, it weakens our spirit and robs us of peace. To truly live a fulfilled and purposeful life, we must learn to forgive ourselves every single day, to embrace our imperfections, and to offer ourselves the same compassion that we would give a dear friend. Forgiving yourself is not about excusing your mistakes or pretending they never happened. It's about understanding that you are human, and part of being human is making mistakes. Mistakes don't define you. They are simply opportunities for growth. When you forgive yourself, you release the burden of guilt, shame, and regret that holds you back from moving forward. It's not a one-time act, it's a daily practice, a conscious decision to let go of past hurts and allow yourself the freedom to heal and grow. The first step in embodying self-compassion is to recognize that you are worthy of it. Too often, we fall into the trap of thinking that we must earn forgiveness, that we must somehow prove our worthiness. This mindset can keep us stuck in a cycle of self-criticism and self-doubt. But the truth is that you are worthy of compassion simply because you exist. Your worth is not contingent upon your achievements or your mistakes. You are inherently valuable, and acknowledging the truth is the first step in forgiving yourself. Next, it's important to understand the power of self-criticism. We all have an inner critic, the voice that tells us we're not good enough, that we've failed, that we'll never be able to do it. While this voice may feel like it's protecting us, it's actually doing the opposite. It keeps us trapped in a cycle of self-doubt and inaction. To practice self-compassion, you need to silence the inner critic. When that voice of judgment arises, challenge it. Ask yourself, is this voice speaking from a place of truth, or is it simply reinforcing old patterns of shame? Often that voice is just a remnant of past experiences and not an accurate reflection of who you are today. When you make a mistake or fall short of your expectations, pause and take a breath. Don't rush to condemn yourself. Instead, give yourself permission to feel what you're feeling, whether that's disappointment, frustration, or sadness. These feelings are valid, but they don't have to define you. Acknowledge them, then let them go. Allow yourself to process the emotions without attaching a narrative of failure to them. Emotions are temporary, but the stories we tell ourselves can last a lifetime. Don't let a momentary setback become a permanent self-judgment. Self-compassion is about recognizing that your mistakes don't diminish your value. It's about understanding that you are more than the sum of your actions. You are a complex, multifaceted individual with a heart full of potential. When you make mistakes, they don't erase the good you've done or the positive qualities you possess. Forgiving yourself means you're giving yourself the opportunity to learn and grow without the weight of unnecessary guilt holding you back. One of the most powerful ways to embody self-compassion is through the practice of self-forgiveness. Every day, take a moment to reflect on any mistakes or missteps you may have made. Instead of dwelling on them, choose to forgive yourself. Say to yourself, I am human, I make mistakes, I am still worthy of love and respect, even in my imperfection. Repeat this affirmation daily. Over time, it will begin to shift your mindset and transform the way you view yourself. Forgiveness also involves releasing the need to be perfect. Perfectionism is a trap that many of us fall into. We believe that if we're perfect, we'll be worthy of love, success, and acceptance. But perfection is an illusion. It doesn't exist. The quest for perfection only leads to frustration and disappointment. When you forgive yourself, you let go of the need to be perfect. You allow yourself to be fully human, flawed, imperfect, and beautiful in your own right. This shift in mindset can be incredibly liberating. It opens up space for you to show up authentically, without the constant pressure to perform. Another important aspect of self-compassion is setting boundaries with yourself. Often we hold ourselves to unrealistic standards, believing that if we push harder, work longer, and do more, we'll finally achieve the success and happiness we crave. But this approach only leads to burnout. It's crucial to recognize your limits and honor them. Self-compassion means respecting your own needs, whether that's taking time for rest, seeking support, or simply saying no when you're overwhelmed. You don't have to be everything to everyone. It's okay to take a step back and prioritize your well-being. To fully embrace self-compassion, it's essential to practice mindfulness. Mindfulness allows you to be present in the moment, without judgment. It helps you notice when you're being hard on yourself and gives you the space to choose a different response. Instead of ruminating on past mistakes or worrying about future failures, mindfulness teaches you to focus on the here and now. In each moment, you can choose to be gentle with yourself, to show yourself the same kindness and understanding that you would offer a friend. The key to embodying self-compassion is consistency. It's not about forgiving yourself once and forgetting about it. It's about making forgiveness a part of your daily routine, just like brushing your teeth or drinking water. Each day, forgive yourself for whatever mistakes you've made, no matter how big or small. Each day, remind yourself that you are deserving of love, kindness, and understanding. Each day, choose to let go of the past and embrace the present with an open heart. Remember, self-compassion isn't about being soft or weak. It's about recognizing your own humanity and treating yourself with the same respect and care that you would offer to anyone else. It's about accepting that you are not perfect, but that you are enough. By forgiving yourself every day, you create the foundation for a life filled with peace, joy, and growth. You release the past and embrace the future with a heart that is open to new possibilities. As you continue on your journey, remember that self-compassion is not a destination, it's a practice. It's something you cultivate and nurture over time. The more you practice, the more natural it will become. And with each act of self-forgiveness, you will find yourself growing stronger, more resilient, and more capable of navigating life's challenges with grace. Forgive yourself every day and watch as your life transforms from the inside out. Chapter 8. Strengthen mental clarity by practicing mindfulness in everything. Clarity in the mind doesn't happen by accident. It's a result of conscious, repeated attention. When life becomes loud and scattered, what we often lack isn't intelligence or discipline, it's presence. True presence, rooted in mindfulness, is the anchor that steadies thought, calms emotion, and clears perception. Without it, even the simplest tasks become burdens. With it, the most complex challenges become manageable. When you begin to practice mindfulness in everything you do, not just during meditation, but while walking, speaking, listening, eating, or even doing nothing, you begin to notice how much of your life has been lived in automatic mode, reacting instead of responding, rushing instead of attending. The mind is constantly stimulated. Notifications, tasks, thoughts, worries, comparisons. The brain becomes cluttered with unfinished ideas and unprocessed feelings. Mental clutter is not just exhausting, it's dangerous. It clouds judgment, feeds anxiety, and reduces your ability to act with wisdom. The first real shift toward clarity comes when you stop trying to multitask your way through the day. Even though modern life tells you to be efficient by doing everything at once, the truth is your mind functions best when focused on one thing at a time. When you eat, just eat. When you listen, listen fully. When you walk, feel your feet move across the ground. These may sound like simple acts, but doing them with presence changes everything. You start to notice how much your body knows, how much your intuition says, and how much life is constantly offering when you are fully here. Mindfulness is not just about slowing down, it's about being awake. Being awake means you are not living in yesterday's regret or tomorrow's fear, but rooted in what's real right now, and what's real is where your power is. You can't fix the past, and you can't guarantee the future, but you can bring your full attention to what you're doing now, and that single act repeated over time has the power to transform your entire experience of life. Every time you choose presence, you're clearing the fog. You're choosing to meet life with full awareness instead of drifting through it half asleep. Mindfulness is not a technique for people with extra time. It's for people who want to make better use of the time they already have. You don't need to go away to a retreat. You don't need to sit cross-legged for hours. You only need to start noticing what's happening in your body, in your breath, in your environment, and in your mind right now. That noticing is the beginning of clarity. And once you begin to see clearly, you begin to live differently. You stop reacting to every impulse. You pause before you speak. You recognize when your thoughts are spinning, and you choose to redirect them. That kind of conscious living builds inner strength, and that strength is what keeps you centered when life gets difficult. The mistake most people make is thinking that mindfulness is something separate from daily life. They think it's a nice idea to practice when they're not busy. But the truth is, mindfulness is meant to be woven into everything. Washing dishes can be mindfulness. Driving can be mindfulness. Even getting dressed can be a moment of presence. It's not the activity that matters, it's the attention you bring to it. And the more you practice attention, the sharper your mind becomes. That's how clarity is built. Not all at once, but gradually, by learning to meet each moment as it comes, fully awake. Mental clarity is not about having all the answers. It's about removing the noise so you can hear your own thoughts clearly. When you live mindfully, you start to notice patterns, how certain situations trigger the same reactions, how certain thoughts lead to the same emotional states, how certain behaviors keep you stuck. With awareness, you begin to choose differently. You begin to act from intention rather than compulsion. You stop asking, "Why does this keep happening to me?" and start asking, "What am I doing that keeps creating this?" That shift from blame to responsibility is one of the greatest signs that your mind is becoming clear. Because with clarity comes ownership, and with ownership comes power. Distractions are everywhere. They are loud, constant, and often tempting. But distractions are only effective when you're not grounded. When you are mindful, you recognize distraction for what it is, a momentary lure that pulls you away from your deeper purpose. Instead of chasing every notification or reacting to every irritation, you create space. That space is where wisdom lives. In that space, you can pause, breathe, reflect, and respond instead of react. It may seem small, but that space is everything. It's where maturity grows. It's where emotional control is developed. It's where your best decisions are made. You'll notice that when you begin to live with awareness, you also begin to simplify. You stop overcommitting. You let go of things that don't matter. You start valuing depth over speed, quality over quantity. You begin to surround yourself with people, habits, and ideas that support your peace instead of disturb it. Mindfulness is not just a state of mind, it becomes a lifestyle. And once it becomes a lifestyle, your life begins to align with clarity. Not because everything outside of you changes, but because everything inside of you becomes steady. A clear mind doesn't mean you never feel anxious or confused. It means when those emotions arise, you don't fight them or drown in them. You notice them, you accept that they're present, and then you observe them without judgment until they pass. That's the power of mindfulness. It allows you to experience life without getting lost in it. It gives you the strength to face discomfort without being ruled by it. And that kind of strength becomes your foundation, especially when things around you are uncertain. Even the smallest act of mindfulness can reorient your entire day. One breath, one moment of stillness before a decision, 1 second of looking inward instead of outward. These small choices, repeated again and again, create a pattern. That pattern becomes your default, and that default becomes your strength. Over time, clarity stops being something you have to reach for. It becomes your way of being. You begin to trust your mind again. You begin to trust your choices. You begin to live in alignment with what matters most to you. Practicing mindfulness in everything is not about perfection. It's about practice. It's not about doing it right. It's about doing it consistently. Some days you'll be more present than others. Some days your mind will wander. That's okay. What matters is that you return. Again and again, you return to the present moment. Each return is a reminder that you're alive, that you're awake, that you're choosing to live consciously. And that choice, more than anything else, is what strengthens your mind and clears the path forward. Chapter 9. Shift your perspective by finding gratitude in challenges. Every person eventually faces moments they wish they could escape. Whether it's a painful loss, an unexpected setback, or a season of uncertainty, life will challenge you in ways you didn't anticipate. And in those moments, the mind naturally leans toward resentment, frustration, or helplessness. But hidden in those very experiences, right in the discomfort, is an opportunity to shift the way you see yourself, others, and life itself. The shift doesn't come from pretending the pain isn't real. It comes from choosing to find something meaningful inside the experience, something that teaches, reveals, or strengthens you in a way that comfort never could. Gratitude isn't reserved for when everything is going well. It's not limited to peaceful mornings, kind words, or good news. In fact, the deepest form of gratitude is born not when life is easy, but when life is difficult and you still find something to appreciate. When you start to look at challenges through the lens of growth, you begin to realize that the moments that break you open are the same moments that build you. You begin to understand that strength is not the absence of hardship, but the ability to meet hardship with a heart that remains open. And an open heart can always find something to be thankful for, even in struggle. You can't always control the circumstances you face, but you always have control over how you interpret them. And that interpretation is everything. It defines your emotional experience. It determines your energy. It influences your decisions. When you reframe what's happening from a victim mindset to a learning mindset, your entire emotional landscape changes. Instead of asking, "Why me?" you start asking, "What is this teaching me?" That one question shifts your role from powerless to purposeful. And when you start seeing yourself as someone who can grow through anything, you stop fearing the difficult moments and start using them. Gratitude doesn't mean denying pain. It means looking deeper into it. It means allowing yourself to feel the disappointment or hurt, and then asking what value can come from it. That kind of awareness takes courage because it forces you to pause instead of react. It forces you to sit with discomfort long enough to discover something useful. But the more you practice it, the more natural it becomes. You'll find that even in moments of uncertainty, there are signs of progress. Even in heartbreak, there are reminders of your capacity to love. Even in failure, there are lessons that refine your thinking and reveal what truly matters. Life is not trying to defeat you. Life is trying to develop you. And every obstacle is a mirror reflecting back your ability to choose a new outlook. Some of the most profound breakthroughs are born from the very moments you thought would destroy you. But they didn't. You're still here. And that means there's still room for meaning, still room to find clarity, still room to give new shape to the way you carry your story. The moment you start finding something to appreciate in what once only felt like a burden, you begin to reclaim your power. You realize that perspective is not a passive trait, it's an active choice you make every day. Small practices of gratitude during difficulty can create big changes in how you think and feel. You don't need to pretend that things are fine. You just need to find one detail in the situation that grounds you, one person who stood by you, one insight you gained, one strength you never noticed until you were tested. These small recognitions begin to expand. Gratitude grows through attention, and the more you look for it, the more you train your mind to seek growth instead of defeat, meaning instead of misery. Over time, that habit becomes part of your character. There is something transformative about deciding to honor your journey, even the parts that hurt. Not because you enjoyed the pain, but because you refused to let it be meaningless. You turned it into something. You used it. You reshaped it into something that served your growth, your values, your understanding. And when you do that, your relationship to struggle begins to change. You no longer fear it in the same way. You start seeing challenges not as evidence of your failure, but as opportunities to meet yourself more deeply, to rise more fully, and to become more honest with what you truly want to create from this life. Sometimes the lessons don't appear right away. Sometimes it takes weeks, months, or even years to look back and say, "I see why that had to happen." But when you trust that meaning can be found, eventually you stop resisting the process. You begin to lean into it with a different energy. You stop wishing for immediate relief and instead build patience. And patience itself is a gift. It teaches you to sit with life instead of rushing past it. It teaches you to breathe even when the outcome isn't clear. And when you combine patience with gratitude, you develop emotional maturity that stays strong regardless of circumstance. What you focus on expands. If you constantly focus on how unfair life is, you begin to experience more frustration. If you focus on what you're learning, you start to feel wiser. If you focus on what is still good in the midst of difficulty, your emotional state begins to shift. The outer conditions may not change instantly, but your inner condition improves. And when your inner condition improves, your choices become clearer, your energy becomes more stable, and your overall well-being becomes stronger. You can build a habit of gratitude by pausing every time something hard happens and asking, "What could this be showing me?" Not in a forced way, but with curiosity. With that question, you invite your mind to explore meaning rather than spiral into complaint. It may feel uncomfortable at first, especially when emotions are strong, but the practice is not about denying reality. It's about looking at it through a new lens. That new lens will show you possibilities you never saw when you were focused only on what was wrong. Eventually, you come to understand that every person who challenged you taught you something about boundaries, trust, or your own values. Every disappointment showed you where you placed too much expectation or where something needed to change. Every difficult chapter forced you to re-evaluate what really matters. When you hold that awareness, you stop carrying resentment. You begin to let go, not because everything is resolved, but because you no longer need the weight. Gratitude helps you release what no longer serves your growth. The most powerful people aren't those who never struggled. They're the ones who turned struggle into fuel, who took their worst days and turned them into wisdom. You can be one of those people. You don't have to wait until everything is perfect. You don't need every answer. You just need to begin finding something worth appreciating, even if it's just your own effort to keep going. That recognition plants a seed. That seed, when nourished with attention, becomes perspective, and that perspective becomes peace. Gratitude in the face of hardship is not naive, it's intelligent. It's the mind's way of building resilience. It's the heart's way of staying open when it would be easier to close. It's the soul's reminder that meaning can exist anywhere if you're willing to look for it. And when you live that way, not just once but every time life challenges you, you become someone who can face anything and still find purpose. That's the real shift. That's the beginning of a life rooted in strength, not circumstance. Chapter 10. Nurture your mind by surrounding yourself with positive influences. Who you surround yourself with matters more than most people ever realize. Your environment quietly shapes your thoughts, influences your beliefs, and either uplifts or drains your energy. The mind is highly absorbent. It picks up what it hears, feels, and sees. It listens even when you aren't consciously paying attention. And over time, what you constantly expose yourself to becomes part of your internal world. That's why nurturing your mental health is not just about what you think, but about who you allow into your space, mentally, emotionally, and physically. You cannot expect a strong mindset to thrive in a toxic or unmotivating environment. It needs the right conditions, just like anything you want to grow. If the voices around you are constantly negative, critical, or discouraging, it doesn't matter how hard you try to think positively. Those outside messages will eventually creep into your inner voice. You start doubting yourself. You second-guess your intuition. You carry burdens that aren't even yours. You begin to believe limitations that never belonged to you. And the worst part is, this process often happens gradually, so you don't notice it right away. But over time, the mind becomes what it's exposed to the most. So you have to be intentional about surrounding yourself with influences that align with your growth, your peace, and your values. Positive influence doesn't mean people who are always happy or pretending everything is perfect. It means people who are emotionally honest, supportive, and solution-focused. People who challenge you without trying to diminish you. People who listen without judgment, speak with kindness, and encourage you to be your best without demanding perfection. These are the kind of people who nourish your mind. They make you feel seen instead of criticized. They celebrate your progress instead of comparing it. They hold space for your struggle without letting you sink into it. That kind of support builds resilience. It gives your mind the foundation it needs to stay steady during change and strong during adversity. Sometimes you have to make the difficult decision to limit time with certain individuals, even if they've been part of your life for years. Not because you don't care, but because your peace is too important to compromise. You're allowed to outgrow connections that keep you small, reactive, or emotionally drained. You're allowed to set boundaries with people who expect you to carry their weight, but offer no support in return. You're allowed to seek out new relationships that reflect who you're becoming, not just who you've been. Growth requires space. And sometimes, creating that space means stepping away from what's familiar, but no longer healthy. What you consume daily matters too. The books you read, the media you follow, the conversations you engage in, all of it leaves an imprint. If you're constantly feeding your mind fear, conflict, or drama, you'll start to see life through that lens. Your thoughts become reactive instead of intentional. You start feeling anxious for no clear reason. You lose sight of what's real and possible. But when you fill your mental space with wisdom, empathy, and hope, your outlook starts to shift. You begin to respond instead of react. You become more solution-oriented. You find clarity where there once was confusion. So pay attention to what you allow into your awareness each day. It matters more than you think. Building a positive mental environment doesn't mean avoiding reality. It means choosing where to focus your energy. It means protecting your attention like it's sacred, because it is. Your attention is the most valuable thing you have. Where it goes, your energy follows. Where your energy flows, your life moves. So guard your attention. Direct it toward what builds you. Toward people and messages that remind you of your strength. Toward ideas that stretch your thinking instead of shrinking it. Toward habits that renew your focus instead of distracting you. The more intentional you are with your attention, the more grounded your mind becomes. It's also important to become a positive influence for yourself. You spend the most time with your own thoughts. And if those thoughts are constantly self-critical or harsh, it doesn't matter how kind your environment is, you'll still feel unworthy. So speak to yourself with the same respect you offer others. Remind yourself of your efforts. Acknowledge your improvements. Be honest about what needs work without attacking your character. Self-encouragement is not weakness. It's the foundation of confidence. It's what allows you to keep going when no one else understands your journey. Make it a habit to speak life into your goals, your identity, and your future. If you don't have a strong support system yet, create one. Seek out communities, even online, where people are striving for similar growth. Join groups that discuss ideas, share tools, and lift each other up. Read the words of people who have overcome struggle and built something meaningful from it. Fill your space with reminders that you are not alone, that growth is possible, and that strength is something you can build. When you immerse yourself in an environment of encouragement, you begin to reflect that same energy. Your mind becomes more focused. Your heart becomes more open. Your actions become more aligned. Even your physical space can influence your mental clarity. A cluttered or chaotic environment can mirror a cluttered mind. When you take the time to create order in your surroundings, you send a signal to your brain that focus matters. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to support your peace. Simple changes, less noise, calming visuals, cleaner spaces, can make a significant difference in how you feel and think. The space you live in should feel like a place that supports your intentions. Every item, every sound, every corner should reflect the version of yourself you're choosing to become. There will always be influences you can't control. Not every moment will be peaceful. Not every person will understand you, but you can still choose what you give your time and energy to. You can still decide to spend more time with people who inspire your growth than with those who resist it. You can still limit your exposure to negativity and increase your exposure to ideas that elevate your thinking. That choice, made consistently, becomes the path to a more focused, stronger, and clearer mind. You don't have to do this all at once, but you do have to begin. You can start by evaluating the 5 people you interact with most. Do they energize you or exhaust you? Do they see your potential or constantly focus on your flaws? Are they committed to growth or stuck in blame? These questions matter, and they deserve honest answers. From there you can begin making shifts, small but meaningful ones. More time with those who lift you up. Less time in draining environments. More attention to what you feed your mind. Less tolerance for energy that pulls you backward. The mind doesn't thrive in isolation. It grows in connection, but only when those connections are healthy, respectful, and supportive. You deserve to be around people who remind you of your strength, not your limitations. You deserve environments that help you think clearly, not ones that confuse or belittle you. And you deserve to be someone who creates that kind of influence for others too. It all begins with what you choose to allow around you. Choose wisely. Choose intentionally. Your mind will thank you. Your future will reflect it. Chapter 11. Release negativity by letting go of past resentments. Letting go is not about forgetting what happened. It's not about pretending the pain never existed or that you were never hurt. Letting go is about releasing the grip that past experiences have on your present. It's about refusing to allow old wounds to define who you are or what you're capable of becoming. Resentment is a quiet poison. It lingers beneath the surface, influencing your decisions, coloring your thoughts, and draining your energy. You may not always feel it consciously, but it shows up in your irritability, your inability to trust, your hesitation to move forward. The longer you hold on to it, the more it takes from you. It robs you of peace. It keeps your mind trapped in loops of blame. And slowly, it builds a prison around your heart. There's a cost to carrying resentment. It's not just emotional, it's mental, physical, and even spiritual. Your body holds tension from unresolved pain. Your relationships suffer when you expect new people to pay for the damage caused by others. Your mind stays busy, replaying old stories instead of writing new ones. The past begins to weigh more than the future inspires. You might tell yourself you've moved on, but if that bitterness is still hiding behind your words or silently shaping your choices, then the past is still in control. And you weren't born to live that way. Releasing resentment doesn't mean you approve of what happened. It doesn't mean you excuse people's behavior or act like it didn't hurt. It means you've decided your freedom matters more than your grudge. It means you've chosen healing over vengeance. It means you've stopped waiting for an apology to give yourself peace. Some people will never say sorry. Some may never understand how deeply they affected you. And if you tie your inner peace to their awareness, you'll stay stuck in a cycle that never resolves. But when you make peace something you give to yourself, not something you wait to receive, then you take your power back. The truth is, no one else is responsible for the energy you continue to carry. They might have caused the pain, but they're not in charge of your healing. That responsibility belongs to you. And that's not a burden, it's a gift. It means you don't have to wait on anyone to start living again. You can decide right now that the pain of the past no longer gets to shape your identity. You can let go without needing closure. You can forgive without needing to reconnect. You can move forward without dragging every scar with you. Healing isn't about erasing the memory, it's about changing your relationship to it. One of the most powerful steps toward emotional freedom is simply acknowledging what you've been holding on to. Be honest with yourself about the anger, the blame, the disappointment. Don't judge it. Don't rush to fix it. Just recognize it. Give yourself space to feel what you've been avoiding. Sometimes you have to sit with the weight before you can set it down. Sometimes you have to tell the truth to yourself before you can tell a new story. You may cry. You may feel foolish for still being affected by something from years ago. That's okay. Healing is not a performance. It's a process. Once you've faced the pain, you can begin to ask deeper questions. What did this experience teach me about my boundaries? What did it reveal about what I value? How has this hurt shaped the way I show up in the world? Reflection like this transforms pain into wisdom. It turns suffering into insight. You can't change the past, but you can change what you do with it. That's where growth begins, not in denial, but in awareness. You begin to understand that resentment keeps you tied to the moment you were hurt, while release allows you to reclaim the rest of your life. Letting go is a decision you make again and again. It's not a single moment. It's a practice. Some days it will feel easy, like a weight has lifted. Other days, the old feelings will creep back in. But if you keep choosing release over resistance, the past will loosen its hold. You'll stop reacting from old wounds and start responding from new strength. You'll stop trying to rewrite history and start creating a better future. And little by little, the space once filled with pain will be filled with peace. You deserve to feel light. You deserve to wake up without carrying the heaviness of yesterday. You deserve relationships that aren't built on fear or guarded by bitterness. You deserve joy that isn't shadowed by what went wrong before. And all of that becomes possible when you stop watering the weeds of resentment and start planting the seeds of forgiveness. Not because they earned it, but because you're done suffering for what someone else did. Forgiveness isn't always about them. It's mostly about you. It's about breaking the chain that keeps you emotionally tied to people who are no longer part of your life. It's about ending the loop that keeps your mind stuck in what should have been. It's about creating emotional space for something better to take root. When you let go, you create space for calm, for clarity, for connection. You stop letting old experiences contaminate new ones. You start living with presence instead of pretense. Sometimes we resist letting go because we think we need the pain to prove it mattered. But your scars are proof enough. You lived through it. That's enough. You're still here, still learning, still growing. That's your strength. That's your story. And now you get to choose what the next chapter looks like. You don't need to carry the pain to honor the lesson. You can honor it by choosing differently now, by being more intentional, by being more loving toward yourself. Letting go is one of the most courageous things you'll ever do, because it means leaving behind not just the pain, but the identity you built around it. It means deciding to stop being the person who was wronged and start becoming the person who rose. It means trusting that your life is not limited by what happened, but expanded by what you're willing to release. You are not your anger. You are not your hurt. You are not the weight of the past. You are the awareness that gets to decide what stays and what goes. You are the power that chooses peace even when pain feels more familiar. You are the strength that says, "This ends with me," not because it didn't matter, but because your future matters more. Let go. Not once, but daily. Not perfectly, but intentionally. Let go of the people who didn't apologize. Let go of the stories that keep you small. Let go of the bitterness that clouds your joy. Let go of the past that no longer fits the life you're building. Let go not to forget, but to be free. Let go not because they deserve peace, but because you do. Chapter 12. Focus on progress by celebrating small wins daily. Progress doesn't always arrive in grand gestures. It doesn't always look like major breakthroughs, overnight success, or a sudden transformation. Sometimes it looks like getting out of bed on a day when your mind feels heavy. Sometimes it means saying no when you used to say yes just to please others. Sometimes it's a single breath taken with awareness, a moment of stillness before reacting, or a shift in how you speak to yourself. These moments often go unnoticed, but they are signs of change. They are proof that something inside you is moving forward. And if you wait for only the big victories to acknowledge your growth, you'll miss the quiet evidence that you're evolving. Celebrating small wins is about recognizing effort, not perfection. It's about noticing what you're doing right, instead of only focusing on what still needs fixing. When you start appreciating the little improvements, your mind begins to trust that progress is happening. You stop doubting your direction just because the destination feels far. Every day brings a new opportunity to see how far you've come, even if it's only one step ahead of where you were yesterday. That step counts, and if you learn to see it, honor it, and let it motivate you, then your momentum builds. You start creating a rhythm of belief in yourself. There's something powerful that happens when you make a habit of acknowledging progress. You shift your mindset from deficiency to growth. Instead of constantly trying to catch up with an ideal, you begin building confidence in what you're becoming. Most people delay their happiness until they achieve some distant goal. They tell themselves they'll celebrate when they lose the weight, when they earn the money, when they reach the milestone. But the truth is, the person who will arrive at that destination is being shaped in your daily choices now. If you don't value the process, the outcome won't fulfill you, because it's not just about what you achieve, it's about who you become in the process. Progress is deeply personal. What feels like a small step to someone else might be a major breakthrough for you. That's why comparison ruins growth. If you measure your success against someone else's pace, you lose sight of your own. Growth is not a race. It's a commitment to continue, no matter how slowly. Every effort counts when it's rooted in intention. Every attempt, even the imperfect ones, moves you forward when it's guided by purpose. The work you do today may not show immediate results, but over time, it creates change that's real and lasting. A powerful practice is to end each day by asking yourself, what did I do well today? What effort did I make that deserves recognition? What small thing am I proud of? These questions don't ignore the challenges. They simply redirect your focus to what you're building rather than what you lack. It might be something simple. You cooked a healthy meal. You resisted a negative impulse. You took care of something you'd been avoiding. It might seem ordinary, but it matters, because every small win builds internal trust, And the more you trust yourself, the more consistent your actions become. Acknowledging progress is also a form of emotional self-care. When you feel stuck or overwhelmed, your mind can spiral into judgment. It's easy to forget how hard you're trying. It's easy to criticize yourself for not being further along. But if you take a breath and look honestly at what you're doing right, you soften that self-judgment. You create space for encouragement. You start treating yourself like someone who is worthy of compassion, not just correction. And that kind of self-respect fuels real progress. It doesn't drain it. The idea of celebrating small wins might seem insignificant, especially if you're someone who's used to pushing hard, setting high standards, and expecting a lot from yourself. But those high expectations can become a trap. They often keep you from feeling proud of the journey you're on. You convince yourself that nothing counts until it's finished, perfect, or admired by others. But growth is not about reaching a finish line. It's about continuing to move, even when no one's watching. Even when you're the only one who knows how much effort it took. That effort is valid. It's worthy of recognition. When you acknowledge progress regularly, something shifts inside you. You stop relying on outside approval. You stop waiting for the world to validate your effort. Instead, you start feeling proud of who you're becoming, regardless of how others respond. That internal pride becomes a solid foundation. It carries you through hard days. It reminds you that you're not starting from scratch. You're building on something. Each small win becomes a brick in the foundation of your future self. Celebrate even the things that seem invisible. Celebrate your courage to keep going when you feel like giving up. Celebrate your patience when you choose to respond with kindness. Celebrate your honesty when you admit you made a mistake and choose to learn from it. These are all small wins. These are all steps toward a life of meaning. You don't need to wait until you've arrived somewhere impressive. You can honor the journey while you're still walking it. Start keeping track of your progress in a way that's meaningful to you. Maybe it's a journal where you write down one thing each day that you did well. Maybe it's a calendar where you mark each day you showed up for your goals. Maybe it's a voice note you record every night, reminding yourself of what you're proud of. Whatever it is, let it be a tool that reminds you you are not standing still. You are growing, evolving, and becoming, day by day. When you build this habit, you change the way you see yourself. You stop identifying with your past limitations and start connecting with your current growth. You begin to trust that consistency matters more than speed. You realize that the most meaningful change happens slowly, beneath the surface, before the results become visible to the outside world. And you learn to enjoy the process, not just endure it. Every small win is a message to your future self. I didn't give up. I stayed with it. I believed in the process, even when it was hard. And when you look back, you'll see that it was never the big moments alone that shaped you. It was the daily effort, the repeated decision to keep going, the choice to see value in the steps others overlooked. So don't wait for the applause to feel proud. Don't wait for the transformation to feel grateful. Don't wait for the destination to start enjoying the road. Recognize your small victories. Celebrate the ways you're showing up for yourself. Let those moments matter. Because in the end, the life you build is made from thousands of small choices, and each one deserves to be honored. Chapter 13. Boost your energy by prioritizing sleep and relaxation. Your energy doesn't come from caffeine, motivation, or even sheer willpower. It comes from restoration. It comes from the quiet hours when your body isn't working and your mind isn't racing. It comes from the intentional decision to rest, even when the world keeps telling you to do more. The truth is, you can't run on empty and expect to feel whole. You can't stay sharp and resilient when you're chronically tired. When you begin to treat rest as essential, not optional, everything in your life starts to shift. You function better when you're rested, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally too. Your ability to think clearly, to respond instead of react, to stay patient under stress, these are not signs of strength alone, but of recovery. When you're sleep deprived, your mind can play tricks on you. Problems seem larger than they are. Doubts grow louder. Small setbacks feel like defeats. But with rest, your perspective resets. What felt overwhelming the night before looks manageable by morning. That's not magic. It's your nervous system catching its breath. Sleep is often the first thing sacrificed when life gets busy. People wear exhaustion like a badge of honor, as if staying up late and grinding through the fatigue proves something. But what it really proves is how disconnected we are from our own well-being. Productivity means nothing if it costs you your peace. Achievements lose their meaning when your health breaks down in the process. Pushing through fatigue doesn't make you stronger, it makes you numb. And over time, that numbness turns into burnout. You deserve sleep. You deserve deep rest, not as a reward, but as a necessity. Your body repairs itself while you sleep. Your brain processes emotions, stores memories, and clears out stress. Every system in your body depends on rest to function properly. When you neglect sleep, you begin a slow decline that affects everything: your concentration, your mood, your digestion, your immune response. You may not notice it at first, but eventually the cost shows up, and by then it's harder to recover. Relaxation is just as vital, not scrolling on your phone or zoning out in front of a screen, but real relaxation, the kind that allows your mind to slow down, your muscles to release tension, and your breath to deepen. Rest isn't just about being still, it's about becoming present. It's in those moments when you stop striving and allow yourself to simply exist that your body begins to recharge. The nervous system unwinds, your thoughts settle, your heart rate calms, and in that space clarity returns. Many people resist relaxation because they've been conditioned to feel guilty for not being busy. They associate rest with laziness. But that's a lie we've inherited from a culture addicted to output. The truth is, you're more productive, more creative, and more emotionally balanced when you're rested. You make better decisions, you solve problems faster, you communicate more clearly. Energy is not created by force, it's restored through care. Make rest a ritual. Set a time in the evening when you begin to disconnect. Dim the lights, turn off devices. Let your body know that it's safe to slow down. Maybe you stretch, take a warm shower, or listen to calming music. Maybe you read something peaceful, or simply breathe deeply for a few minutes. Whatever your ritual looks like, let it be consistent. Let it signal to your brain that it's time to release the day. Over time, your body will respond. You'll fall asleep faster. Your sleep will deepen, and you'll wake up feeling more grounded. If your sleep is interrupted by anxiety or racing thoughts, be gentle with yourself. Don't force your mind into silence. Invite it into peace. Sometimes writing down your thoughts before bed helps. Sometimes it's about giving yourself permission to not solve everything at once. Tell yourself, right now, I rest. Tomorrow, I'll think clearly. Tonight I choose peace. That simple affirmation can quiet the mental noise. It creates distance between you and your stress. Quality sleep starts during the day. What you consume, how much sunlight you get, and how you manage stress all influence your ability to rest at night. Avoid stimulants late in the day. Limit exposure to screens before bed. Create boundaries around work and stressors that steal your evening peace. Your body needs rhythm. consistent times for waking, sleeping, eating, and unwinding. When you honor that rhythm, your energy stabilizes. You stop riding emotional highs and lows. You become more steady, more centered. There's no glory in exhaustion. There's no pride in constantly feeling drained. The world may applaud your hustle, but your body will always tell the truth. If you want more energy, start treating sleep like sacred time. Start valuing rest as an act of self-respect. You're not weak for needing rest. You're wise for claiming it. Because once your energy returns, your life begins to flow again. You become more present with people. You bring more focus to your goals. You laugh easier, breathe deeper, and feel more alive. Relaxation isn't about doing nothing. It's about creating space to reconnect with yourself. When you slow down, you hear what you've been ignoring. You notice tension in your body, emotions you haven't addressed, or needs you've been denying. Rest reveals the truth. It helps you return to alignment. And from that place, everything gets clearer. Sleep isn't the end of your day. It's the foundation of your next one. How you rest tonight determines how you show up tomorrow. Whether you meet your challenges with strength or stumble through them in a fog depends on how deeply you allowed yourself to recharge. Let your sleep be intentional. Let your rest be full, because the world needs your clarity, not your fatigue. It needs your light, not your burnout. And that light burns brightest in a well-rested soul. There will always be things to do. Tasks will pile up. People will make demands. But none of it matters if you're running on fumes. Protect your energy like it's sacred, because it is. Your energy is your life force. It fuels everything you care about. And when you prioritize sleep and true relaxation, you're not being selfish. You're being smart. You're giving yourself the strength to live fully, love deeply, and give meaningfully. So tonight, choose to rest. Not because you've earned it, not because you're exhausted, but because you know that you're worth the care it takes to feel whole again. Let sleep restore what the day has taken. Let silence carry you home to yourself. And when you wake, let it be with the kind of energy that comes from deep, honest restoration. The kind that doesn't just keep you going, but brings you back to life. Chapter 14. Strengthen your willpower by resisting unnecessary distractions. To grow stronger in any area of life, you must first learn to manage your attention. Every day the world competes for it, notifications buzzing, ads flashing, news spinning, conversations pulling, emotions flaring. In the middle of all this noise, it's easy to forget what you came to do. It's easy to waste hours following the urgent and ignoring the meaningful. Willpower doesn't begin with effort, it begins with clarity, and clarity only comes when you stop giving your focus away to things that don't matter. Distractions are everywhere because they're designed to be. They seduce you with convenience, with novelty, with the promise of something easier than the hard work in front of you. They give you an excuse to delay your purpose. But every time you give in to distraction, you make it harder to return to discipline. And every time you resist it, even for a few minutes, you reclaim your direction. You tell your mind, I am in charge here. I decide what matters. I choose what gets my time, my thought, my energy. Strengthening willpower is not about being perfect. It's not about forcing yourself to push harder every moment. It's about practicing the skill of choosing. Choosing again and again what aligns with your purpose, even when it's boring, even when no one is watching, even when the temptation to quit is loud. Discipline is built through the repetition of conscious decisions, and each one strengthens the muscle of your will. You don't have to conquer everything at once. You just have to conquer the next moment. It's easy to assume that distractions are only digital, but they're internal too. Doubts, insecurities, urges to compare yourself, fears of failure. All of these are mental interruptions that weaken your focus. That's why strengthening willpower isn't just about turning off devices. It's about developing the inner awareness to recognize when your attention has drifted and bringing it back, again and again, without judgment, without quitting, with determination. Start noticing what steals your time. Look closely at your habits, your routines, your environment. Where do you go when you're avoiding something hard? What do you reach for when you're uncomfortable or bored? What pulls you away from the present moment? Once you see the patterns, you can change them. You can remove temptations. You can redesign your space. You can create friction around distractions and ease around your goals. You can take control. Willpower grows when you challenge it, not with extremes but with small, intentional tests. Spend 10 minutes doing nothing but the task in front of you. Go 1 hour without checking your phone. Resist the impulse to reply immediately. Delay gratification by just 5 minutes. Each time you resist an unnecessary pull, you increase your strength. And over time, that strength becomes your foundation. It becomes who you are. The brain rewards consistency. When you choose discipline once, it's difficult. When you choose it twice, it gets easier. When you choose it daily, it becomes your default. But only if you keep showing up. Distractions will always be there. The world will not stop spinning just because you want to focus. You have to build a structure strong enough to withstand it. That structure is made of routines, boundaries, and a clear understanding of what really matters to you. Remind yourself why you began. When the moment of temptation comes, and it will, return to your reason. The goal isn't to resist forever. It's to stay connected to the part of you that wants more, that believes in something deeper. The more you feed that part, the stronger it becomes. The more you indulge your distractions, the weaker your sense of direction. Life doesn't wait for you to get serious. Every moment spent scattered is a moment lost to your potential. There's no shame in falling off track. Everyone slips. The difference is how quickly you return. Some people waste days, weeks, even years waiting to feel ready again. But the truth is, the moment of power is always now. You can recommit in this breath. You can say no to the noise and yes to your path. And you can do it again tomorrow. Strength doesn't come from never falling. It comes from getting up with more resolve each time you do. Protect your mornings. That's when your willpower is strongest. Start your day with something that centers you, not something that scatters you. Don't check messages before you've checked in with yourself. Create before you consume. Move your body. Plan your priorities. Set your intention. And if possible, do your most important work before the world even knows you're awake. That one shift can change your entire trajectory. In the end, resisting distractions isn't about deprivation, it's about freedom. The freedom to think clearly, the freedom to follow through, the freedom to be proud of your choices instead of ashamed of your impulses. It's about stepping away from the trap of constant stimulation and stepping into the quiet power of purpose. That power is already inside you. You just need to stop watering the weeds and start feeding the roots. Don't wait for motivation. Don't wait until the conditions are perfect. Start now, even in chaos. Especially in chaos. Because if you can train your focus in the middle of noise, you can hold your power anywhere. Start small. Choose one moment to be fully present. Choose 1 hour to protect your attention, and build from there. Let each choice be a vote for the person you're becoming. Remember, everything you feed grows. If you constantly give your energy to distractions, they will take over your life. If you feed your goals with daily effort, even imperfect effort, they will take root, and eventually they will bear fruit. Willpower isn't magic, it's management. The management of your time, your thoughts, your space, your habits. Take that responsibility seriously. Your future depends on it. You are not at the mercy of your urges. You are not weak just because you get distracted. You are capable of deep focus, of real presence, of consistent follow-through. But you have to train for it, just like a muscle, just like a craft. And the more you train, the more natural it becomes. Until one day, you realize what once pulled you off course no longer has power over you. And that moment, that quiet triumph of self-mastery, is worth everything. Chapter 15. Live with intention by setting clear daily goals and actions. Every day begins as a blank page. What you choose to write on it will either move you forward or leave you in the same place. Living with intention isn't about having a perfect routine or checking off a list of tasks. It's about clarity, knowing why you're doing what you're doing and staying true to it. Without direction, time slips through your fingers and your energy gets divided among things that don't matter. But when you set clear goals and deliberate actions, you become the author of your own progress. The difference between a productive day and a wasted one often comes down to what you decide the moment you wake up. Before the world starts speaking, before the noise takes over, you have a chance to define what matters to you. You can ask yourself, what do I want to move forward today? What action will bring me closer to the life I want to live? The clarity of that question can act like a compass. It doesn't have to point towards something massive. It can be one simple step, but it must be chosen with intention, not drifted into by default. The mind naturally wants to react. It wants to jump to what's urgent, what's flashing, what demands your attention. But reaction keeps you stuck. It robs you of choice. Intention reclaims that power. It shifts you from being passive to becoming deliberate. Every goal you set for the day, no matter how small, is a signal to your brain that your life has a purpose, that you are in control, that you're not here to simply pass time, you're here to shape it. Clarity is powerful because it simplifies everything. When you know your target, distractions lose their grip. You're not pulled in 100 directions because you've already chosen your direction. This doesn't mean you never face interruptions or changes in plans. It means you know how to return to what matters. You don't wander aimlessly through your hours. You walk with purpose, even if the pace is slow. It's not about doing more. It's about doing what counts. So many people are busy all day, but accomplish nothing that truly matters to them. They confuse motion with progress, urgency with importance. Living with intention means stopping to ask, is this helping or hurting? Is this aligning or distracting? You must be ruthless in choosing what deserves your time, because what you focus on grows, and if you keep feeding the wrong things, your life will reflect that. Each morning offers a chance to reset. Even if yesterday was chaotic or unproductive, today doesn't have to follow that path. Begin by defining 3 clear outcomes for your day. Not vague wishes, but specific actions you will take. Write them down, speak them out loud, look at them often, let them guide your decisions. This practice is not about pressure, it's about clarity. When your mind knows what to do, it resists less, it wastes less, it focuses more. Don't underestimate the power of small goals. Progress is built on tiny wins repeated consistently. A 10-minute effort, done daily with purpose, can move mountains over time. But only if it's directed, only if it's chosen. Random effort leads to random results, but focused action, even in small doses, compounds into real change. That's the hidden strength of intention. It makes each moment matter more. There's a deep satisfaction that comes from ending the day knowing you followed through on what you set out to do. It builds confidence. It creates momentum. It reminds you that you are capable of living on purpose, not on autopilot. You don't need motivation for this. You need a system. Something that helps you set your targets, return to them when you drift, and reflect on them at the end of the day. Simple tools can do this. A journal, a note on your phone, a quiet check-in with yourself in the evening. What matters is that you're honest, that you're consistent, that you stay connected to your path. Avoid overloading your days with unrealistic expectations. Intention thrives in clarity, not in chaos. If you try to chase 20 goals at once, you'll likely accomplish none. Choose fewer targets and go deeper with them. Ask yourself what would truly move the needle today, not what would look impressive, not what would make others notice, but what would truly matter to your growth, your peace, your progress. Let that guide you. You'll have days when you lose focus. That's normal. The key is to catch it early, without guilt, and gently return to your chosen path. The faster you return, the stronger your intention becomes. It's not about perfection, it's about presence. Intention doesn't mean being strict or rigid. It means being awake to your life. It means noticing where your energy is going and steering it back when it drifts. This is how you build inner leadership. This is how you take ownership of your time. People often wait for clarity to show up before they act. But in truth, clarity is created through action. When you choose a goal, take a step, and reflect on it, you learn more about what matters to you. And with that learning, you refine your direction. Don't wait for everything to feel certain. Set a goal, take the step, and adjust as you grow. The point is not to get it perfect. The point is to be intentional and to keep choosing what matters every single day. You become who you practice being. If you practice wandering through your time without purpose, you become passive. If you practice choosing clear goals and acting on them, you become powerful. Not because everything works out perfectly, but because you showed up with intention. You used your time deliberately. You lived your day instead of letting it use you. This approach builds resilience. When challenges come, and they will, you're not thrown off course so easily, because your sense of direction comes from within. It's not dependent on how things go. It's grounded in your ability to refocus, re-choose, and re-engage with what matters. That's what makes you steady in a world full of noise. That's what gives you peace, even when things are uncertain. Your goals don't have to be grand. They just need to be yours. Set them from a place of truth. Act on them with consistency. Reflect on them with honesty. And keep going. You're not trying to impress anyone. You're trying to become someone. Someone intentional. Someone grounded. Someone clear. That is more powerful than any outside success. It's the quiet victory of knowing your time was well spent. That your day wasn't just lived. It was led.